Did you guys ever notice the correlation between the increase in gang activity and the decrease in Spirograph sales? Think about it. We will. No, you won't.
All right, here we go. You're listening to The Haunting of Bly Manor Aftershow by Horror Movie Talk.
Hello. Hello and welcome to Horror Movie Talk Special, The Haunting of Bly Manor Aftershow.
That's almost Australian.
Aye, good day, mate. On a
blockage.
Oh, we got a blockage. On a normal episode of Horror Movie Talk, we would review and discuss one horror film in detail, but for this special series of 10 episodes, we will be having an opinionated and accidentally funny discussion on each episode of The Haunting of Bly Manor. We will also be throwing in some interviews of the cast and crew for good measure. As always, your panel of expert hosts for this episode are Dr. Bryce Hansen, who holds a PhD in spookology. Say hello, Bryce.
Hello.
And me, Professor David Day, the foremost expert in scare. Foremost expert in scare no-nos. So, without further ado, The Haunting of Bly Manor Aftershow with Horror Movie Talk. We have a great episode for you today. I think this one is my favorite of the 6 so far that I've seen. Do you have an opinion on that? How did this one strike you?
This one is mostly Henry, right?
This is the Henry
episode.
heavy episode, so I think this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, this one's pretty cool.
We will start out the episode by giving a brief synopsis of the episode, and then we will get into spoilers and take a deeper dive into what we liked and hated about the show. So, as I said, today we will be talking about episode number 6. And like we already mentioned, we learn quite a bit of the backstory about Henry. And the family as a whole. We kind of get to learn a lot about Dominic and Charlotte and their relationship. They're the parents who passed away. We get to learn a lot about Henry, which up until now, all we've known is don't call Henry for any reason whatsoever, unless someone's hurt. And even then, why aren't you calling a doctor? And but then, there's actually a decent bit to learn about Flora in this episode as well.
Right.
She's kind of the B story line in this episode, which
gives a lot of the rules of what's going on with Miles and Flora and even what was happening with Hannah.
Yeah, and it's very sad what's going on with Flora. And maybe I just empathize with her very heavily because she reminds me so much of my daughter. Mm-hmm. And she's so confused and conflicted.
And she's just
perfectly splendid.
Man, she's
not like Miles. Miles is a little dick.
Yeah, he's a real dick. I hope we get to interview him.
This will be the episode when we interview him.
Hey, Miles, you're a real dick. No, but that's the mark of a good actor, right?
It was an accident.
That's the mark of a good actor. If he can make you think he's a dick.
Mm. Yeah, so like the guy that played Joffrey on Game of Thrones.
Oh, man.
How could you not hate that?
Oh, man, he's so skillful.
Okay.
So while this is a long episode at over an hour, these don't have a set time. Have you noticed that? Some of them are 40 minutes. Some of them are over an hour.
Which is great.
Is that great?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because, I mean, it gives the creator wiggle room.
Yes, like, it does. And if something doesn't need, specifically on the low end, if something doesn't need to be 45 minutes, for the love of God, don't stretch it into 45 minutes.
Right.
And if something needs to be an hour long and you can't cram it into 45 minutes, let it breathe.
Right.
You know? So, yeah, you're right.
There's some people that there's some directors that would probably be a bad idea, that they work better with constraints.
Sure.
Because it forces them to make decisions and not just throw everything in there.
Yeah.
But Mike Flanagan seems like he's got it dialed in for what he wants and how to tell a story.
The dude's a pro. What's your favorite Mike Flanagan thing?
I mean, Dr. Sleep was real solid.
God, man.
I mean, it's hard to choose because I was blown away by Hush. Like it was I really movie. And some part of it was like I had low expectations. It was like, okay, so this is like another Strangers. This is another like home invasion guy with a mask, thing. And it's like immediately subverts that trope.
Subverts everything the whole way through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Hush is great. Dr. Sleep, it's easier to pick the ones I like least. I didn't like Oculus as much as other people
I
did.
didn't mind Oculus. I thought it was pretty good. It was decent. It definitely wasn't as good as Dr. Sleep. Like, Dr. Sleep killed it.
Actually, maybe just The Haunting of Hill House. Haunting of Hill House is like... That's like a monument.
Yeah, it sure is. It's a great show. So before we get into spoilers, we're going to tell you a little bit about ourselves. You can check us out at horrormovietalk.com. From there, you can find links to all of our social media. We post new episodes every single Wednesday of our normal show where we just review horror movies. Usually, we try to do new ones while there's not a global pandemic going on. But, when there aren't new movies coming out, we just have to go to all the great classics and review them, like The Exorcist and Alien and all the good shit. Mm-hmm. Also, make sure to subscribe to the podcast if you want to catch those every Wednesday. If you'd like to give us a call, do so at our voicemail number, 682-253-4468. I'm sure we will have to have an episode of this that comes out a week or two after these episodes have come out, just to field all the voicemails of, "You suck!" Or
see, it's not. They're gonna be like, you don't even know it's Miss Gross. It's like, all right. In our defense, we're recording this 2 weeks before it comes out, and the IMDb is not filled out at all.
Yeah. And then also, if you would like to contribute to helping out the show, you can do so most directly by going to our Patreon page at patreon.com/horrormovietalk. Or you can just go to horrormovietalk.com and click through the banner at the top of the page. Thanks again for listening, and let's get into spoilers.
My skin's a-tingling just thinking about this spooky tale.
Uh-oh.
That one didn't get applied.
Huh. That's kind of weird. Yeah, why didn't it get applied in there?
Let me see. Hold on.
Hey, blah, blah, blah. Dingo, dingo.
Is it this?
My skin...
Weird.
Okay. Well, as I said, this episode clocks in at an hour and 2 minutes. So this is by far the longest episode of all the Haunting of Bly Manors that we've seen so far, which, I don't know, when I pause it at the very start and it's like, hey, it's a whole hour long, I'm kind of like, oh man. But this one ended up being, like I said, my favorite of the whole series so far. So I guess, way to go, Mike.
You're really sensitive with time. Like,
I am.
You look at the time code, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the problem is I get tired at night. You don't.
Right.
There are no constraints to your night. I know the constraints to my night, and they're finite. And then I just go, and I fall asleep on the floor and wake up 4 hours later, and I'm like, oh, my neck hurts. So,
yeah, I do that too, but Yeah, I just care. It doesn't matter to me what the length of the movie is as long as it's good.
Oh, man. Oh.
There's no... I think Ebert has a quote of, like, there's no great movie that can be long enough, and there's no bad movie that can be short enough, basically. Like,
that is very true. Yeah, Tetsuo, what the Iron Man was little over an hour long, like, or maybe not even an hour long. Might have been like 56 minutes, and you couldn't get out of that room fast enough. Yeah, like, that was rough.
It really needs to be lopped down to like maybe 3 minutes.
I mean, honestly, it could be.
Yeah,
that was the longest 3-minute long YouTube video I've ever seen. So yeah, in this episode, I realized that Henry, the uncle, is Elliot, E.T. from E.T. Phone Home, the Stephen Spielberg movie, starring E.T.
Have you ever seen the audition tape for him for E.T.?
No.
Oh man,
is it great? Why?
He's so good.
Really?
Yeah, as a little kid, he's so good, and he like blew away Spielberg. It's like, and you hear Spielberg, and he's like, "Well, kid, you got the part." Like,
wow! Can you imagine that moment? Can you even imagine that moment where you're like a 12-year-old kid and you're auditioning in front of fucking Steven Spielberg, and he's like, he like gives this like look of disbelief, and then like you got the part
right
in fucking T.
Because is Spielberg describing like, this is what's happening. They're taking away your friend. You know, they're taking him away, and you're basically begging them to stop, and you don't understand why.
Wow.
And the kid's like, Henry, what's his name?
Yeah, his real name is Henry.
Yeah, his real name's Henry
Thomas.
So Henry Thomas is a little, probably like 9-10-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, he delivers this performance, and he's like crying, and it's like really watching a little kid like break down. You're like, Jesus Christ.
Wow.
That's great. So
is that on YouTube? I would assume.
Yeah.
Cool. We got to check that out. So, so this episode starts off with, you know, as most episodes do, with the narrator talking about our subject a little bit, and she's saying how he entombs himself in his work, and he just kind of shuts himself in his office, preferring to fall asleep in his office rather than his apartment in the city. So
right.
So immediately we're given this kind of look into his life of, this man doesn't go home. He simply stays at work all the time, and he drinks heavily. Right. And he's my kind of guy. His two drinks are bourbon and scotch. These are the appropriate things to drink if you want to get drunk, and do it in a classy way, I should say, and be classy, right?
There's no not classy people that get drunk off of whiskey.
None. Zero.
Yeah.
I dare you.
They're all classy.
I defy you to show me a single one. You can't. So he starts looking down the hall, and there's a figure that appears when he turns away from the hall. A figure that like appears, just kind of apparates. And then as he sits down to start drinking, it sits down with him, and you immediately recognize, oh, that's him.
Yeah.
It's just him, but it's really off-putting because he's got this smile stapled on his face, just like, and it's
just a shit-eating grin.
Oh, man, it's so gross.
Right.
I do not want to be anywhere near that guy.
It is great. It's it's in the trailer too, that the face, and it's like really, really effective.
I don't. Yeah. I mean, so the Steven Spielberg audition tape thing, he gave me the legit fucking chills just with his facial expression. And it's not even like a threatening. I mean, it is weirdly threatening.
Right.
He was just smiling, but it's so much more. It contains like contempt and like
right. Spite.
And just like, yeah, like real hatred. And it's like him looking at himself, kind of. So it's very, I don't know, it's just off-putting. Yeah, I put a note in here. Bryce, do you like scotch? You haven't drank very much. But you didn't seem to like whiskey when I
like
optioned
straight up. I don't know. I like cocktails.
Yeah.
Like have like a old fashioned or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, old fashions are great.
But yeah, it's got to have something in it. Like it can't. I think you brought over bottle and
scotch.
You kind of watered it down.
Yeah.
And it was fine. It's just not
your
just not my
style.
Thing. It's really intense. Like it's just pure intensity, basically.
Really?
Like this is intense whiskey taste.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Like, okay. I'm sure I could appreciate and see all the that's the funnest part of drinking for the first time in your 30s. Because you hear everyone like
which you did.
You talk about all these whiskeys and these beers and like, oh, it's got a
floral tone.
It's got a velvet note. It's like, what the fuck?
That's
like,
not even food. How do you know what velvet tastes like?
It's like it tastes like beer smells. Like that's what this beer tastes like. Tastes like like rotten
kind of like
hops.
Kind of like pee.
Yeah. It's like, oh well, yeah, taste this one.
You don't like pee?
Yeah, it still tastes like slightly different pee.
I love it. I love drinking piss.
The ones that I think the things that you suggested that I do, like I did really end up liking the Jaeger and Red Bull. It's great.
Oh yeah. Oh man, you'd love a German chocolate cake shot. You would love it. It's there's no other way to describe it other than it really kind of tastes like chocolate. But but you finish it with a lemon. So you bite a lemon, and that brings it all together somehow into chocolate. I don't know how.
Weird.
Anyway, yeah. So yeah, lots of drinking in this episode. So now we back up in time. We back up to when Flora is about to be born, and Dominic, the dad, shows up to the house, and he's like, "Hey guys, hey, what are you doing here, brother? What are you doing here, Henry? Why are you here?" And Henry's like,
"What are you doing, stepbrother?"
"What are you doing, stepbrother?" And he's like, "Oh, it was faster to just like I'm here to help." And he's like, "Okay,
don't worry about it. She's giving birth."
Okay. And
see, I don't remember that being a thing. Like I just remember him arriving and like. Being surprised
I think the thing that he was surprised about was, yes, it was too early, right? He's like, well, this doesn't match up with the timeline of when I fucked my wife appropriately.
He doesn't connect those dots till years later.
Right. So the first thing he does is he's like, why aren't we at the hospital?
Right.
And he's like, oh, well, the hospital is 2 hours away and the doctor was only 40 minutes away. So it's just faster to get the doctor in here. He's like,
yeah. Yeah, but preemies.
Yeah, exactly. This thing's several months early.
Yeah.
So what's that about? There's a lot of switching back and forth in this, as always. So we switch back to the present day, and Flora wakes up outside. She's like on the ground. She's asleep, and she just kind of stirs awake. Mm-hmm. And then we jump over to Danny, who's bringing Jamie, the gardener, a cup of coffee, a very terrible cup of coffee. And she tries to apologize for freaking out when they were making out. Now, okay, I have a problem.
Can't you just say that you saw a ghost?
Okay, no, not even that. My problem is with Jamie, the gardener. So a couple episodes ago, episode 4, Danny and Jamie are about to make out. They're like...
Yeah, they touch pinkies.
Oh, pinky touch. Oh, there was a pinky touch in this episode, too. Did you see the pinky touch in episode 6 between Henry and Charlotte? I specifically noted. I was like, wow, there's a lot of pinky touching going on. Bryce is on to something here. So episode 4, Danny and Jamie are about to make out. And she pulls away like twice because she sees the man in the mirror. She sees
She's thinking about the man in the mirror.
Yeah, so she sees the man in the mirror. She jerks away. She's like, I can't. And that's all it takes is like 2 minor interruptions. Like, well,
this is not worth it.
And Jamie's like, okay, bitch, maybe some other time. Take a rain check. I'm not that into you. This is not realistic to me. But maybe it's super realistic because it's 2 girls. Because
I think
if it were me, I'd be like, whatever. You saw a ghost? Yeah, okay. Let's just keep this thing rolling here.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, just as we can fall into a vat of sewage and like you can give me blue balls 20 times just as long as my dick gets wet at the end of the day. I mean, we're okay.
Cover me in ectoplasm. Whatever. I don't care. Whatever it is. Let's just get this show on the road. But maybe it's because it's 2 girls.
I think there's a dynamic or an element of this is that this is the 80s and they're gay. They're gay women. And so Danny has this thing where, I mean, she almost got married to a guy, even though she probably knows like she's not attracted to him sexually and wants, something else.
Yeah.
I'm stopping myself from saying something offensive.
Yeah, good. Fucking chauvinist.
So there's that element of like, I think there's when one homosexual is dealing with another one that is in the closet, like that can be really frustrating.
Maybe you all are homosexuals. Oh yeah, I could see. Yeah, I guess I could see that where it's like, hey, can you get over this, please?
Yeah.
Like I got over it, can't you?
Right.
And actually, I mean, we learn the reasoning for Jamie's doing this later in the episode. I really liked the moonflower. Moonflower speech she gave.
It was really romantic.
Family. Yeah, it wasn't really romantic. It was really sad, but eventually it led to romance. And this is your male brain, your testosterone-filled brain going, it led to sex, so romance.
Well, it's a different definition of romance. There's tragic romance, right?
Sure, I guess. So anyway, she brings us some coffee to apologize, and, they're having a discussion about that, and then they both notice, oh, shit, there's Flora walking around outside, and she's like, I don't feel so good. So they get her into bed, but not before the old au pair, what's her name? Jessie? Is it?
Oh, it's Rebecca Jessel.
Yeah, Rebecca Jessel. That's right. Rebecca touches Flora on the forehead, and Flora just blacks out. Just
gives her a little boop.
Little boop. Boop. Beep. And at this point...
Yeah, Flora describes how... I mean, she kind of breaks the fourth wall when she's in some of these scenes. She's like saying, oh, this is a memory.
Yeah.
Or I'm getting caught in a memory again.
I'm folded in, aren't I?
Yeah.
She keeps saying folded in.
Yeah.
And actually this first one this memory she's stuck in after being touched on the forehead is a little kid next to her bed fucking around with the playhouse, with the dollhouse. And she's like, oh, hey, how's it going? He turns around and he's got no face. Ugh.
He's got no face.
He's got no face. Yeah, he had no eyes, no nose, no mouth. He was super creepy. And then she does the most inexplicable thing. She runs after him and then finds her mom and tells her mom. And the mom's like, oh, it's just one of those no-face children running around our house. But as she's telling...
He had no face!
That's right. Had no face.
I haven't used that one in a while.
As she's runs in to tell her mom's like buttoning up her bustier. She's like, like putting together the boobs, putting the boobs back together. And there's Uncle Henry. Hey, Uncle Henry, what are you doing here in my parents' bedroom with my mom who's putting her blouse on?
I was just sleeping in another room, and I came in here as I was buttoning up my shirt. It's totally normal. Don't worry about it.
Totally normal.
What's up, Flora?
How's it going, kiddo? Yeah, you got your nose. It's like, Okay. Her mom and the uncle, obviously they don't believe her about the boy. And then she starts waking up from this thing while she's in the dream. And she keeps saying, am I tucked away in a memory and dreaming? Now we cut over to Henry, and he seems super fucking disinterested in the safety or well-being of these kids for whom he are the last people on Earth that he's related to.
Right.
So basically, Danny has become so concerned with, the Flora, basically passing out and then, first of all, waking up outside and then passing out, losing time, saying weird shit, that she does the unthinkable and calls Henry, the uncle. And she's like, she gets on the line with the secretary, and the secretary's like, call for you, sir. And he's like, are they in need of hospitalization? She's like, no. And he's like, well, then what the fuck? I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
And it's a very strange and strong reaction.
Yeah.
So let's see here. We got Henry's ghost who comes back after Henry basically says,
his doppelganger.
Yeah, his doppelganger. Yeah. I call him his ghost because he's basically him.
Right.
But he starts telling him about he resets up the fact that Peter has stolen $250,000 from them. And he's basically putting down Henry. He's putting him down and telling him he's kind of worthless. So then we get kind of a lot of little glimpses of this little kid playing with the dollhouse. So this is answering a question that we've had in the past, right? Which is, this dollhouse seems to be kind of omnipotent. It seems to be acting on its own accord.
Right.
But there's a child with no face who's moving the pieces appropriately.
He had no face!
And what was that?
Jeez.
That's really out of order.
That was a really sickening drop that we just played.
Yeah. So now, fortunately, we get to, let's see here. Owen and Hannah take care of... Oh, that's right. So Owen and Hannah take care of the kids so that Jamie can take Danny out on a date.
Yee.
But I thought they were going to go to a bar, and so I was a little let down because I got excited because I haven't been able to go to a bar in over 6 months. And so I was like, oh, it's going to be a bar scene, and I'm going to be reminded of the Cheers-esque quality of a wonderful English pub. And then she just takes her out in the backyard, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? I got all angry for a moment, and then it became a beautiful scene.
I like it how when she's discussing the date, when Danny is discussing the date with Jamie, she's like, well, you realize I live above a bar.
That bar you're describing?
That specific bar. And it's like, oh, yeah, I guess you do.
Guess you do. Yeah, and a little flat right above that bar that you want to go to, get drunk at. That's where I live. Indeed.
You did kind of mention that before.
Man, that'd be so cool. I've never lived in a city.
Oh man, I can't imagine how uncool that would be.
Yeah, you think?
Just like, sometimes I like to go to sleep before 2 a.m.
No. You don't seem to do that. Me, though. And then I am very attuned to sounds. Yeah, maybe it wouldn't be that great of an idea. That's a good point. So Jamie brings her into the backyard and shows Danny the moonflower and explains how hard people are for her. She's like, people, they fucking suck. Let me tell you about people. And she launches into this big long story about how her dad was a coal miner and apparently also a cuckold. And her little brother is the son of one of the dudes who was fucking her mom while her dad was 6 miles underground, mining for fucking coal, which just happens to be dead things that we burn to get energy. Like there's all this like interesting analogies, and
it's great writing.
It's great.
It's a great monologue.
It's a wonderful monologue. I'm so glad I got to experience it, because it was touching and sad. Yeah. And it really I love the things that can make me feel something.
Right. Really, if you're looking for a theme for this episode, it might not be Henry, it might just be cuckolding.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Because Henry cuckolds his brother, and then it's got this nice long monologue about Jamie's father getting cuckolded.
Wow. Hey, that's a good point. Yeah, and so Jamie's kind of like, people, they suck. They're hard. It's hard for me to be convinced enough to put my time into a person, because rarely is it worth it. And it's kind of weird, because she's basically saying like, I can't figure if you're worth my time, straight to her face. Mm-hmm. But she also simultaneously is saying plants, though, very rewarding, because they put out. Basically, she's like, look, this bush, not the best bush, doesn't grow here locally. It only blooms at night, and each one of these blooms will die by tomorrow. But it puts out. It does what it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Which I can relate to. So, game sees game. And let's see here.
So this is when it shows Henry bringing the giant house, or the giant dollhouse, for Flora's birthday, and this is where we get the sweet, sweet, hot pinky touching.
Them pinkies rubbing together. Oh, I can taste those pinkies.
What if just one? It was like they're like.
Oh, if
just sticking your pinky
in between the ring and the
pinky fingers.
Ooh, it's like that's some dirty pinky play. I don't think we do that. I think this is
join my OnlyFans to see my pinky demonstration.
I'm like quarter chub. So yeah, Henry brings them this the dollhouse, and he sets up the at this point, though, Dominic is kind of onto them. It seemed like Dominic,
right? He's standing at the top of the stairs and like,
a whole dollhouse of my house. It's kind of,
yeah. And then it reveals that Dom did the math. Did the math.
And by the way, Henry is the worst at keeping things low key, at keeping it on the DL. Right. He's like, "Oh, Dominic, what are you doing here?" Now, I'm concerned. It's like he does everything wrong. He's like,
right.
His poker face, not good.
Right. So then Dominic confronts Henry and basically says, "You're banished. Because I figured out that you fucked my wife, and that's where Flora came from. That's why she was so premature and not underweight." Yeah.
Another astonishingly good monologue.
Right. And just saying she's mine. It doesn't, which is
not, and he's not referring to Charlotte. He's saying, Flora, your daughter who you sired is mine.
Yeah.
You're never going to get to see her.
Yeah. You won't get to see her graduate. You won't see her. You won't be the one walking her down the aisle. That's me. And it's all, I mean, of course that's, how it has to be.
Yeah.
But also just really undercutting, you are done with this family.
Putting a pin in him and being like, hey, guess what?
And so that kind of explains why Henry is literally in exile, or still exiling himself even after his brother's dead. He's still feeling the shame and guilt and the gravity of cuckolding his brother, and actually kind of respecting his brother's wishes.
And actually, yeah. I didn't even realize he was respecting his brother's wishes.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize. That's a good point. But not only that, At that exact moment after the monologue, that was when his doppelganger was born. Because he's like, your little shit-eating grin, he's never going to grace my family again. And you're going to have to deal with you looking at yourself in the mirror and like, I feel sorry for you because you're always going to be you.
Yeah, I mean, Dominic lays out
crushing
what that doppelganger is, which is basically like you have to live with yourself and you realize that you're actually evil, that you're just this shit-eating grin guy that tries to put on a facade, but you know what you really are. And so that's the representation of basically his brother's monologue is this doppelganger.
Yeah.
Which is like basically says he's a piece of shit and he's the worst person in the world and just keep drinking yourself to death, basically. So
as I mentioned all throughout this episode, Flora has been being put to sleep by Rebecca, the previous au pair. And she's basically, when Rebecca doesn't want, so Flora has a connection to Rebecca's ghost.
Right.
She can see her wherever she is, and she'll ask her for help. She'll be like, can you please help me? I don't want to keep falling asleep. I don't want to be confused about where I am. And every time she does this, Rebecca walks up to her and boops her on the forehead. And then she gets folded into one of these memories. And about 80% of the way through the memory, she realizes, oh, I got folded into one of these things again. And this one is of her mom telling her how to make a talisman, which are all these little voodoo dolls we keep finding all over the place. And it's so sad when oh my God, it just ripped my heart out when she realizes that it's just a memory of her mom and it's not really her mom. And she's like, Mom, I miss you. And it's like,
yeah,
it just fucking crushes me. Because like every once in a while, will your kids hit you with something like that? They'll be like, you'll be, doing your day and you're kind of like moving with purpose through your day. And they're like, and they hit you with something that's like, they didn't pay any attention to me today. And you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Eston is the one that does that every once in a while. Cause he's like just such a space cadet. He
is very, spacey.
He's just running around and jumping on things and having battles in his head and making laser sounds. That's like 90% of his day.
Yeah, can confirm.
And then when he like comes to you and he's like, can we have a special day, just you and me? He's like, oh, yes, Yeah. Or he's like, can we play today? I'm like, oh, I gotta work,
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, you realize that that stuff really does have an impact, like you can't just let him go alone and just like, he's fine. He's in his own little world. It's like, no, it's still really important to be involved all the time,
Yeah. So that crushed me. And then we get to learn who the prank caller is this whole time. Who's been calling the fucking house all this time, Bryce?
Henry.
It's been Henry. He's been calling and calling and calling on the off chance that his daughter, Flora, would pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Ugh. Man, it's just a whole house of misunderstanding and sadness, almost like in real life.
Couldn't you just say, can I talk to Flora?
I guess.
Like if it's Owen that answers, like, what the fuck does he care?
I'm your boss. What are you going to do?
Especially after his brother and his lover are dead.
Maybe.
Like, what's really...
Maybe, but... I don't know. That monologue really, like, look, if somebody has really actually done you wrong and you want to mess up their life, study the monologue that Dominic gives to Henry and pay careful attention to exactly how they do it, because it's not a bunch of name calling and shit like that. It's like truisms. It's like, I'm going to find the base of you, point it out to you and be like, that whole thing, it's not a good look. It's also you.
Right.
It's just you. Crushing. So we're nearing the end of the episode. Danny actually invites Jamie to hang out at the house. She's like, I'm going to be up all night checking on Flora anyway, because she's like doing this weird in and out thing. And at this moment, we flash over to Henry, and he has a real bad feeling about what's going on at the house. So he's like, I gotta go. And his ghost is like, bad Henry is like, no, you can't. Well, it's clear that Henry's ghost is
his worst impulses.
Is his worst impulses, and it's like intended to get him to stay there. Keep the status quo. You sit here, you drink. Well, this is what we do. We drink away our life in this office. So Henry gets up to go, and his ghost is like, no. Let's just hang out here. Like, you should stay here. But yeah, his worst impulses. Flora chases the little kid with no face into the doll room, and like I said, actually, we can just skip that part. Danny chases after Flora, who's running into this upstairs attic room, and boom. Then Miles jumps out from behind her and smashes her in the head with like a bat or something.
Well, also she sees
the little kid with no face. Oh no, she sees Rebecca. That's what spawned this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So Flora gets through to Rebecca, and she's like, "Can you stop? You're really fucking with my head, and I just want to know what's going on." And as they're talking, Danny walks in the room. She's like, "Hey, Flora." "Oh my God, what is she doing? Who's that?
What are those?"
What are those? And she's like backs out of the room, and it's like Rebecca's real corporeal person now. Like she's a real life. She's a real girl, and that's what makes them run up into the attic.
Yeah.
Flora runs up into the attic. Danny chases her, gets smashed on the head by Miles.
She is clubbed on the head.
So that's how this episode ends. Thank you for listening to our after show of episode 6 of The Haunting of Bly Manor. Make sure to subscribe and leave a rating on Apple Podcasts, because that really helps us out a whole bunch. Make sure to share this episode with a friend, and of course visit our website, horrormovietalk.com. We do have a shop if you'd like shirts or stickers of or Linda Blair's head with our name below it. It's a fucking cool sticker. We got a lot of stickers and shirts and stuff like that. Check that out. Also, if you'd like to support the show, you can do so on our website by clicking either one of those links in the top banner. It says buy stuff on Amazon. That portions of the proceeds of any purchase you make will go to us. Or a better way would be to go to our Patreon and consider signing up on a monthly basis.
Special thanks to our artist, Dustin Goebel. You can find him on Instagram at dgoebel00. That's at DGOEBEL00. And he does commissions, and he does a lot of great work, so check him out. Also, special thanks to those great listeners that helped us with our intro, Kitty, which gave us, a legit... I mean, I don't see much difference between her British accent and mine, but I just thought it was better to have it
fresh in the drink, governor!
And then Max for composing the intro music for us.
Check him out at maxwell.r.allen on Instagram. And if you'd like to call us and leave a voicemail, do so at 682-253-4468. You guys have a great rest of your day. We love you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. He had no face!